us in this room rather, that are older than my oldest daughter could really say, we've seen life change a lot, decade to decade, maybe from when you grew up, from when I grew up, and look at life now. It's just changing faster and faster, week by week, day by day. Things that have happened in the last few months, I think all of us never would have imagined would have happened. I would imagine most of us were not alive, probably any of us, I'm trying to think of the timeline. No, we have to be over 100 years from the Spanish flu. That's the last time America really had something on this scale. And so to all of us, it's uncharted territory, if you will. But at the same time, it's been very stressful. We know the Lord, but just because we have God doesn't mean that we're leaning on Him every moment, every day. There's things that come our way. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is COVID complaining. But this doesn't have to do with just right now. So when hopefully the coronavirus is, eradicated or, away from us, this still applies to what we're going through, no matter what it is. But I think now more than ever, ladies, we have the opportunity to complain. It's everywhere. News is so negative. Doesn't matter which station you watch or listen to, they could be more conservative or not. They want to get your attention by, stay tuned after this commercial to come back to here. And it's something like that really catches your attention. You don't want to turn the channel or turn the radio. But what it causes us to do is, as soon as I hear this news, is to go call up somebody or tell somebody else, or my spirit, I get worrisome. There's so many things. My dad was saying my mom has very poor health, and before she got ill right now, he was saying this whole winter, she was just one thing after another, worrying about all their children, the grandchildren, but then the virus, just people's jobs and things. And she did so much so that she wasn't paying attention to her own health. Wasn't, watching maybe her medicines or her vitamins and things that she should be doing. And so, not that made her sick, but she was, worrying more than, you have to take care of yourself. So if you're ever flying an airplane, they say, if you have a loss of pressure in the cabin, give yourself the oxygen mask first, then help a child or someone beside you. You have to be able to breathe to be able to help someone else. And so what happens if we're complaining and this negativity, it becomes part of you. And we won't even like to admit it, but we'll become depressed, discouraged, just at our wits' end, not knowing what to do because I'm so overwhelmed with the negative. And often what we'll do too, we'll be right in the middle of a depression, but it won't be till years later that I even become honest with myself and I'll say, yeah, I was depressed back then. But when we're in it, it's hard to recognize and it's very, very hard to just admit it. So I want to look at a few people, won't be real long, in some verses, and I have some little illustrations for you. What happened to the complainers in the Bible? Again, these are real people, real things that happen. So if you turn to Exodus chapter 16. And while you're looking, here's a little quote. Complaining is like bad breath. You notice it when it comes out of someone else's mouth, but not your own. It's so true. We'll say, whoa, I was just with, Mary over here, and I don't want to even see her for a while because she's such a complainer. But then I'm complaining about Mary complaining, Before we read that scripture, actually let's read it. Exodus chapter 16, verse 2. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. All right, girls, how much of the congregation complained? The whole thing. So that means the whole room. Does that mean everybody but Miss Whitney? No, it means everyone. This congregation of Israel was huge. There was a lot of kids, adults, teenagers, all the different age ranges, but they all complained about the very person who God used to deliver them from their oppression. Listen to this. This is another thing that it kind of gives us all on same playing field. Because we can look at one of us in here and say, oh, she's got it easier than the rest of us. Oh, she has it really, really bad. But this, I think, whether you are a mom or not, you've got a mom or you know a mom, and think about this description. And this helps us understand sometimes why we complain. There was a news ad, placed in an ad or whatever in the newspaper, and it was the description of a mother. So the position wanted was a mommy, a mother, a mom, or a mama. But here's the description. Long-term team players needed for challenging permanent work in an often chaotic environment. Candidates must possess excellent communication and organizational skills and be willing to work variable hours, which will include evenings, weekends, frequent 24-hour shifts on call. Some overnight travel required, including trips to primitive camping sites on rainy weekends, endless sports tournaments, and in faraway cities. Travel expenses will not be reimbursed. You know, as a mom, even as a sister, an aunt, a grandparent, those that we love, those that we try to nurture and care after, even as a friend, it can be very taxing. The title of what you do might be small, but the description is huge. And in that description causes us to have times of complaining. I've got so many stories, especially when my kids were littler, your ages of your boys, where one of them gets sick, you get through it, and then it passes on to the next one, And just when you finally get through it, mama gets it, And by the end, all you feel terrible, but you're just complaining about, and there's stories about each one or what happened, There's so many things in life, ladies, that can get us discouraged. So listen to some of these examples of complainers in the Bible. The very first one was Cain. And what happened to him? He complained about his brother and about the sacrifice, and he became cursed. Then the next one was Ham. Same thing. After the flood and the ark, life just wasn't good enough. At some point, he complained. Maybe he missed his friends, people that he associated with before the flood, but he chose to sin and he became cursed. Then you've got Lot. Really, he lost his family because of it. Then his daughters were complaining that they didn't have the opportunity to have the husband they used to be able to have. And they were actually they facilitated nations that were cursed against the Lord. Then Abraham and Sarah, they had strife and unnecessary divisions. None of us like family issues, but I think all of us know at least one time in our life where we've experienced some kind of stress with family. Some of these people brought it upon themselves. And Abraham is classic. Choosing to have a couple different wives, these different kids, and certain ones are blessed and other ones aren't. It was very stressful, and Sarah really pushed him to that because of her complaining heart. Then you've got Jacob. His family could be like a soap opera with all the wives and the children and all the rest. I'm sure there was more than one complainer in their family as well. But I really want to look at Rachel for just a moment. So she was supposed to be the beloved one, the beautiful one, the one that Jacob was just the apple of his eye. But she became so miserable in life about complaining about not having a child that she brought him to the point where he got angry at her. And she was saying, give me a child. And he said, look, we've been married all these years. I've got all these other kids. It's not me. It's got to be you. And so the very person that he loved, she turned very bitter. And the Lord did bless her with some children, but her life was lost early. And I just wonder if it was because of her complaining spirit. Then 10 of the sons of Jacob, not Benjamin and not Joseph, complainers. Things weren't good enough. But there were so many steps and in-laws and all this inward fighting going on that it ended up, all their complaining took their very brother out of their home, about killed him. And then the big one, the Israelites. They're through the whole entire Bible. We look at it and think, well, if I were in the Bible, I just wouldn't do that. But I think I would be much like the Israelites, where, if you get a rock in your shoe, or you're wearing new shoes and you get a blister. I mean, like all day long, we can complain about, oh, my foot hurts, before you could go change your shoes or whatever. Think about the Israelites. They were in the same shoes, the ones that wandered, for 40 years. And it did say the Lord allowed their shoes not to wear out. But I can imagine there was more than one Israelite that complained about the same shoes that they were wearing since they left Egypt. There's so many blessings around us, even in the midst of this coronavirus. There's sadness, there are deaths, there's mourning, but yet there are still ways that God is working. I've heard so many stories of people that have come through the virus, or know someone, or I've heard stories also that someone has passed on with the virus, but they led their nurse to the Lord before they passed on. Maybe that was their final thing that God wanted them to do on earth. It was, everyone had the time to go. We don't want to see anyone go, but it's amazing that someone who was ill led their caretakers to the Lord on their way out. What an honor to be said about someone. You will find that, as a rule, those who complain about the way that the ball bounces, who say, well, that's just the way the ball bounces, those are usually the people who dropped it. We did something to stop being thankful to the Lord, and instead I complain about the very thing I caused. Complain about my lot in life. Isn't it interesting we say lot in life? And Lot in the Bible was complaining about his own life. There's so many things around us that God sends our way, but are we looking for it? Are we looking for the opportunities to thank Him, to thank others? And I want us to first think, how do I get the complaining out? Number one is to confess it. You got to admit to God, I don't want to, I'm prideful because I don't want to even admit it, but God, I'm a complainer, or I have been complaining. Talk to Him and say, God, I don't want this anymore. And maybe this isn't you, but maybe there's someone in your life that you can gently share this with. It's a hard topic. You don't just want to go up to somebody and say, hey, I've got the answer. You've been complaining. It doesn't go over too well. But have you thanked God for the clothes you're wearing today? There's people who maybe have clothes, but they don't even have the ability to change themselves. Or they live in another country and they own a couple of sets of clothes, maybe even one. I know with the Watsons and the children, we were on the mission trip back in the fall. We saw people who did not own probably more than 2 sets of clothes. Just little kids running around, just filthy, barefooted. And it was amazing. Often they were the happiest. We went to this one village, you've probably heard some of the stories, but over water with just trash and like a dump everywhere. And we did this little Bible study. It was so hot. I remember sitting there with my fan. I have my fan with me. I take my fan everywhere now. But you're just dripping with sweat. And these little kids are filthy. Again, many of them no shoes, torn or stained up clothes. And they were so excited that these Bible teachers were there, that they were going to hear a lesson. One of the people in our group could make the balloon animals and twist them. I've always been too nervous I'm going to pop it. But he could blow them up. And these kids went crazy, like almost clawing each other for the balloon. Then when they got the balloon, they're fighting in it up. But I didn't hear them complain. They just went right back to the one who could make it. Do we do that with God? Something is given to us in life. Maybe we scratch and crawl our way through life trying to attain a certain something, and we lose it. It goes away. Something precious to us. Often what we do as humans is we turn our back from God, and I dwell the rest of my life on what I lost, what I didn't get, what the good old days were like. Instead of, like those kids with that balloon, I lost it, I need to go right back to the maker, the one who made the balloon, like those little kids did. But I go back to God. God, you gave me that person I lost. God, you gave me the job I lost, the finances, the relationship. I lost it. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to live over here with my back to you. God, heal my heart and give me something else. Ask God, give you something that can be your mission in life. Give you something to work on. The second one, again, I'll hit that. I already said number 2, ask God for help. So number 1, confess it to God. 2, ask God for help. Often we'll confess or finally admit, the hardest thing is to even admit you're prideful. I'll be like, Lord, I'm sorry. And even in saying it, like, I'm prideful. There's things that we need to just say it, but then I want to just handle my life on my own instead of asking for help. Many years ago, I was doing a little Bible study like this with ladies, and my husband took, I think it was the 3 younger ones, out to the ocean, and there's this pier that you can walk out on. I heard the story afterwards. And my youngest, Bentley, I should introduce. This is my oldest daughter, London. She's 16. My son, Jennings, 15. Aspen is 12, and Bentley is 10. Well, at the time, that's right. Bentley was with me because she was so little in London. So just made that. You were with me. Okay, so they remember the story. So they're walking to the edge of the pier with Daddy, and who was on his shoulders? Aspen. Okay. And there's a little restaurant out there at the very edge of the pier on the Pacific Ocean that you can walk around the outside. And so they're walking around the outside, and all of a sudden, so he's got a 2-year-old on his shoulders, and 2 other little ones. They've been like 4 and 6. And there's this huge pelican. Well, my husband just first thinks I'm going to walk right by, but the people that were there, and it was like what would it do? Flap its wings and start to like try to bite at people. And the other people who had been there said, "Oh no, you can't go through here. This is like a vicious pelican. It's going to get you." And so he finally works a plan, and they hug. I think the pelican moved away from the building to like the edge of the pier, and so they had this walkway. So he starts to go, and he's holding her hand, and he goes like against the wall really quick, but he leaves my son behind, and he was like 4, and he was scared to death. And my husband didn't want to go back because this pelican's now between them, and he's like, come on. And my son's looking down at the cracks and looking at the bird, looking down at the cracks, looking at the bird. And he's like, just trust me, grab my hand, you just touch me, I'll get you. And again, this is like us with the Lord. We're in this situation where we see no way out. We see this danger over here, danger below. I can't go back because I don't know anybody there. I see someone I know, but I can't even make that leap of faith. But God says, go ahead, reach your hand out and take that step. I will be there. And finally, after I think much persuasion, which he can tell the story much funnier than I, he was able to convince my son and grab his arm, and they about ran off, with this crazy pelican. I wish it were a videotape. But there was all this drama coming back. Mommy, we almost got eaten by a bird, But in life, things all around us can look hopeless. But the reason this building is even here is that many generations ago, some Christians said, God is our rock. God is our hope. He's our trust. It was amazing the whole way down today driving. I haven't done that drive in many years. Church after church right off the freeway. Little ones, big ones, all different sizes, different denominations. But it was so encouraging to us in California, you don't see that many. And so we were like, wow, America has churches. Look at the cars in the parking lots, as the hour got later. It was so encouraging to see that other people were meeting for church. We still have a God no matter where America's at. Whether you like or dislike our current government leadership or hoping for a change, regardless of all of that, America was founded on God. And America has Christians. We as Christians need to pray more than ever for the hope of America, for the salvation of people. Listen to this cute little story. During Sunday school, the teacher asked her class of first graders if anyone could describe a Christian. Well, a little boy quickly raised his hand and stated, Christians are nice people who never complain argue, or talk back. But then he quickly added, my daddy is a good Christian and my mommy isn't. I would hope I'm on the is side. Kids have honesty. They see through things that we try to hide. But it's so true. We can be a person that we never set out to be. You can be the very person you said you never would be. Someone who raised you, someone who you were around. It's amazing how we'll turn into that. Many, many years ago, our first year of marriage, I didn't realize I was slipping into it, but we had some family visits in California. And after they left, I looked at my husband and I said, man, they are so negative. And then my husband, as hard as it was to say this to a new wife, and he took a big risk, he said, honey, you're a lot like that. And I was like, feelings were hurt instantly. You want to get those claws out and, scratch back. But I just started crying and I said, you know what? I think I am. And I said, I need to stop. I didn't realize how much until I was around somebody who was a little bit worse, that I was like, that is so distasteful. It can make you ugly. It can make people not want to be around you. And it's something that through the years I have to keep going back. Okay, Lord, I need to be positive. Lord, help me to, thank you. And the last thing is replace the complaining with thankfulness. So this wasn't a study, ladies, that you didn't know about. In order to stop complaining, we need to be thankful. But do you thank people around you? In a day and age where it isn't heard of, do you still write thank you notes? People send a quick text, they email, and that is nice. But I've been trying to teach my kids and some of my ladies at my church, still write notes. I think it means even more than ever because you don't get very many cards and notes. When you do get one, it's like, wow, that was really nice. It was short and simple, but that person took a few minutes to write me a card instead of just, not doing anything or just a quick thank you. It means something to people. It touches them in a way. If you've been touched by it, just imagine what it does for someone else. And then listen to this too. I've read the book by them, and then I think there's a movie maybe made in the 70s about Corrie ten Boom, The Hiding Place. If you ever haven't read the book, I really encourage you to. It's very good. But this says, being grateful for fleas. I don't think I could say that I am. That, lice, certain things, bugs in your house, it's going to be very hard to be thankful for. Well, Ravensbrück was known as one of the worst German concentration camps during World War II. When Corrie ten Boom and her sister Betsy found themselves in prison there, they were disgusted to discover that their barracks were infested by fleas. When it also had lice, I've read about as well. When Corrie began to complain, Betsy insisted that instead they give thanks, quoting 1 Thessalonians 5:18. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. With some persuasion, Corrie finally joined her sister in thanking God for the fleas. And it was amazing. It was almost right before Betsy passed away that she got to that point. She saw her sister who was suffering and becoming ill, being thankful for the fleas. And she said one of the reasons they were thankful for it was they were able to minister to other ladies because of it. Another lady was hurting or complaining, and Betsy also told Corrie, there's other worse things that could be happening to us than the fleas. In Jude 16, it says, there are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lusts, and their mouths speaking out great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage, meaning they admire people because they're rich, they're famous, oh, you got it, nice. But it says that they were murmurers and complainers. I really think those are the days we live in. Everywhere you go, things aren't good enough. You have to have the next biggest, baddest, bestest thing out there. As soon as you figure out your phone, the technology, you think you got to figure it out, that battery dies and you have to go with a new one because the technology changes. We can complain about all these things in life, But when's the last time you went up to a friend, mother, sister, whoever it is, someone close to you, and just said these words, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful you're in my life. That just might be the very thing that pulls somebody out of a depression, that helps them realize someone loves them. And ladies, we've been loved. I'm encouraged you're here today. Some of the, same faces I saw a year and a half ago that my kids get to meet now. But if you weren't in your spot, would anything else be different? You're needed where you're at. You're needed to be an encouragement. You're needed to be thankful. You're needed just to be in your place, for someone else to walk in and feel comfortable, for them to feel like, wow, I need to come to church because they said I encouraged them today. What if I didn't come today? And so I just want to say, I'm thankful for all of you. You're all important. But don't be like this list of people I listed up to the Israelites, that your name was listed and complaining was brought up. Complaining was the description. Instead, be like the many people in the Bible that we know were sweet and thankful and have something good to say about them. So I want to leave you with that today, and hopefully that's a challenge and encouragement. Sometimes we just need pulled out of what we're in, maybe a rut, maybe I knew I was there, but I needed to hear it so I can change. So today's going to be a great day because it's Sunday, and I'm glad you're here.
Everybody enjoy that. Turn this off.